Hello, good evening, and welcome. Good to see you on this beautiful Wednesday evening. Tonight's show is going to be very interesting. I have two amazing ladies who are doing amazing things in the community. And so we're going to be talking about the different things that they're doing and how they are out there helping others. One has written a book. Her book is called Be the Total Woman You Are. So we're going to come to her a little later in the show. But her book is very interesting. It resonated with me when I read it, and I felt that it's something that we all go through, but we seldom talk about it. And I thought it would be good to share, to learn, and to hear from her how she's been able to take it through and to look as amazing as she does. But my first guest tonight is the founder of a foundation. Her foundation looks after not just girls, which is something that I really like. I say that because also often when we hear people doing foundations, we focus so much on the girl child, which is great because I am a girl child and it is necessary and we are marginalized. But I feel sometimes that we often leave out the boy child as well. So it was so good to look on her website and to see that her foundation is not just about the girl child, but also her brother. And you know the girl and boy child, especially from disadvantaged backgrounds, mentorship, and so many other things. But let me not just keep talking away. So joining me tonight, welcome with me to the show, Ms. Wambui Njau, here to talk about Fanaka Foundation. Hi, Wambui, how are you?
Hello, Priscilla. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show.
It's
I
so good
did
to
look
have
forward
you.
to.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Oh, good. So welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, actually. It's a beautiful day. It's been hot,
It has
and yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Yeah,
good,
I'm
good.
enjoying. I'm enjoying. Well, I'm enjoying working from home. I don't
Uh,
have to drive anywhere.
uh-huh.
Yeah, I do get a lot of Zoomed and Microsoft Teams meetings, so I'm constantly on my screen. Hence, my glasses length of my glasses is changing rapidly. So I'm not,
Let me ask you
but
this.
I'm hoping it won't be for long. So we look
Yeah,
forward to the
let,
change.
honestly, let me ask you this because you know, once upon a time, the worry was that when we are working for too long on our screens, that it would damage our sight. And quite literally, the last 3 months have reintroduced so many of us to the screen. And I don't imagine that many of us are buying the protective shield that, you know, the protective shield that you put on your screen so as your eyes don't get damaged.
Mhm,
How are you
mhm.
finding that? I know you mentioned your glasses just then, but how's it?
Yeah, well, I do wear glasses when I'm working anyway, when I'm reading. But I think because now I'm constantly on the screen, I mean, before I would either be driving to a place or I'll be in a meeting, face to face meeting. I'm finding my glasses are getting weaker.
Okay.
So tomorrow, I have an appointment at my
Get that
optician to
sorted
go and
out.
change, to go and have myself because I'm having to sort of really keep wiping them, but it's not the wiping; it's just my eyes are getting weaker. So
But
yes, it does affect you.
yeah, but are you? What about your? What about your? You know, you mentioned had not having to travel. Are you one of these people that are going to adapt comfortably to being at home now, or you can't wait to get back to your desk in the office?
No, I'm quite happy to adapt, but I think it's good to get out. I mean, yeah, you've got to have a balance. Otherwise, yeah, people will know you. Yeah, you're around. And also for the kind of work that I do, I definitely need to get out because of the relationship I have to build with the client. Sometimes it's good for them to see the person.
Yes.
Um, Rather than having to talk to this person that they don't know. Because I always find there's a big difference between speaking to somebody on the phone or on the screen and
Mm,
meeting in person. It's a
yeah.
completely different ball game because you're now more aware of what you're saying, more aware of a lot of things.
Yeah. Well,
No,
that's that.
I look forward to being out to have that balance. But right now I'm enjoying it.
Well, I think it's necessary. Anyway, so let's before get leave the chit chats. Um,
Yes.
you started Fanaka Foundation. So as I mentioned at the top of the show there, when I checked on you and I thought, oh, it's not just the girl child. I'm a girl child, so I have no problems with that. But I do think that often when we see foundations, we're seeing foundations so often in recent times that speak strictly for the girl child. And I feel as though we leave their brothers out of this when they also need that help and support at times. So, first and foremost, what was the inspiration for Fanaka Foundation?
I know it's a question that so many people have asked me, and I always come back to say, I was introduced to somebody. And actually, it was one of Tola's events when
Right.
I won the Role Model of the Year. I
Okay.
met Mercy. She introduced me and who won the international award. She's a disabled lady, but she has an amazing work she's doing in Kenya, which is called Disability is Not Inability. She writes magazines. And we sat down and we were chatting. And I realized I knew nothing about disability in Kenya. I knew
Wow.
absolutely, and from there on, and she inspired so much. Honestly, this lady does a lot of work to bring awareness.
Mm,
And I said, Mercy, I'm going to work with you, and I really want to understand more. So she introduced me to a blind girl, and this blind girl made me realize, my gosh, there's so much we don't know about blind people. And she inspired me that we just need an opportunity to be able to live a normal life. And because of that interest, that's how I got into supporting mainly the blind and visually impaired.
mm-hmm.
And then I started for myself. Also, what inspired me is the fact that I started really thinking about, if I did not have my eyesight,
Right.
how would I live in this world? How would I cope in this world? If I
Mm,
cannot, I don't know the lady or the man I'm speaking to next to me. I can't
mm,
judge them.
yeah.
First and foremost, I can't judge them. I can't judge them on physical. So there's
Mm,
only thing that will make me judge them, and that is when they start talking to me
right.
or when they touch me.
That's right.
If it's an aggressive touch, then I'll think, okay, this is the bad guy
Yeah.
heading my way. But so those were the two senses that I had to rely on.
Mm,
And for that, I thought, my goodness, so the blind rely entirely on their five senses. So the
mm,
fifth sense they cannot use.
yeah. So
And
there's.
that is, yeah, that really inspired me to sort of get to know more about how can I help.
Mm,
And also, obviously, because of that, I was able to find out there's so much need
mm.
that the blind need,
Okay.
especially now with this COVID.
Okay. So you've told us why you got into it. So what
Yeah.
exactly does the charity do? What
So the charity,
the blind? What exactly does it do for the the boy girl and the boy and the girl rather child?
yeah.
And because I know it's also specific to their area of disability as well.
Mm. So what we do is we would I have to look for partnership because I'm supporting the blind not just here in UK. In UK, I work with Hearts Vision Loss here in Hertfordshire.
Okay.
And yes, so they've given me training. I know how to deal with, to support a blind person, if it's shopping, if it's working with them, if it's the things that they need. But then I also work with the blind in Kenya.
Okay.
So I felt for me it was important to work in partnership with people who understand, because I don't know anything. I did not, I didn't study anything to do with the blind.
Mm-hmm. Learning now.
So exactly. So I had to learn, I had to partner with the experts so that I understand the need for the blind. So I worked with Kenya Society for the Blind.
Okay.
They've been working closely with me. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe I had to go and have a whole day with them where we had to go through, this is what we do. This is how many people, how many are blind in Kenya. At that time, it was only 220,000
Right.
blind, but apparently it's increased. So working with them then made me understand more on my way of supporting them. So
Okay.
by funding them, and then I would get, okay, in how many children, how many girls, how many boys, And then I just picked up a number and I said, I can help. I will try and raise money and specify the kids that need help. And I'll say the 60% of funds that I raise will go for the equipment, so technology, white cane, small things like,
Do you
can you
provide
see that?
a
Liquid level indicator. Can you see that? So when they're pouring hot water in a cup of tea that you take for granted, it doesn't burn them.
Okay.
And then the 40%, it goes to education and mentorship.
Oh, wow.
So education, I have been sending money for fees. Some of them need fees for their studies. And then I've also got the mentorship is the same girls and boys. I've got 2 that I also speak to on a regular basis to see how they're getting on.
Okay.
And I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying this side of work.
Really good. So when you mentioned the fact that you're also working with an organization here in the UK. Are you just working with them just with the blind, or are you also looking at mentorship here in the UK as well?
Even here in the UK, I do mentorship, but I also mentor just abled, person.
Yeah.
At the moment, no, because the ones I'm working with, they're older, they're not young. So in UK, I've got more the older generation that I'm looking after, maybe in their mid-40s going up. So maybe with shopping and then, but I also take part in fundraising. So we would do, we'll organize an event where, walk a mile in my shoes. So we'll go out in a park and raise money, and the mayor will come and join us. Okay. And then just help them with raising funds, because I found the challenges that we have in UK, you'd be surprised, it's the same challenges that we have in African countries, some of them. So, yeah.
We often forget, we assume that because we're in the UK, that these problems don't exist. But one thing I will say is maybe there is more support here than what we have in a place like Kenya, for instance. So so far, how many people have been able to benefit from your work and from the foundation?
Because I've been doing it, I mean, for me, I don't do so for the Kenya Society for the Blind, what I did, because it's an organization, we raised money for an equipment called a Braille photocopier. So this Braille photocopier will be used by multiples of any blind person. So, and I think for me, if I work in partnership, then I'd rather we do a big project together, because although yes, I do send money for food, for education for some of them. I've got 4 at the moment that are in education, and 2 are, one is university level. But I think if I can concentrate on the bigger projects, because I would want the foundation to work more on bigger projects that will have a bigger impact. Okay. So at the moment, I'm trying to take part in advocating that the blind can also be in a mainstream school. Okay. And it's the mainstream schools that needs to provide an accessible learning environment for them.
For them, yes. So you're doing advocacy as well for them?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, excellent. What are your plans going forward? You made mention there about bigger projects. What are some of these bigger projects that you would like to do?
I think the bigger projects for me is I would want to see that, I don't know whether you've seen my campaign and why I'm raising this money. I'm trying to get as many laptops and as many iPads and as many, because yes, the government is supposed to be providing these items, but they don't reach everyone. Mm-hmm. So if I can find out what areas need this equipment, then we'll be able to distribute them. Okay. I've been lucky. Somebody has sponsored me some of the softwares that is required for the blind people to use in laptops. Okay. So my next project is really to just acquire as many laptops as I can, especially during this COVID-19. I really feel that they're being let down. They need the technology also to be able to work from home. So that's one project, yeah. And obviously the other project is to see how I can also help with facilitating mainstream learning and having the correct and the proper learning environment for them. So I would expect a school to have the right paths for the blind, marked with big signs for the visually impaired, and have facilities to use their brain language, be taught at a younger age. So that's the direction I'm going.
But so are you doing that? You mentioned the software situation there that that has been provided for you already. Is that needed here in the UK as well as in Kenya, or is it needed?
Mostly in Kenya. Mostly
Okay.
in Kenya. Yeah. Yeah.
So for those who are in the UK at the moment, it's not as bad, right? When
So far, I haven't met the challenge. Yes.
They have more access to being able to get online, is what I mean.
Yes, yeah. I think in UK they're much more ahead. They've got the technology to move ahead with that. I think it's Kenya, where obviously I come from, that I'm trying to see how I can help them a bit more with the technology and see whether we can even improve on the technology that is already there. So it's still early days, but I'm in a lot of conversation with the right partners that can help me with this, with my dreams. I have a dream.
Tell us your dream so that how do we help you with your dream, Wambui? What do we
my dream is to see we are living in an inclusive society where the disabled will not be seen as an afterthought when we are coming up with decisions, where funding is going. I would like them to be part of that decision making, and they're there. They should not be an afterthought. I still think disability is an afterthought. Government funding, even in schools, building projects. When you have a building, an office, big commercial building, nobody thinks about the disability in terms of how they're going to access the ramps, or how they're going to, if they need lifts or not. There's still buildings being built without those ramps. We need to be able to, that should be a norm. They should not be fighting their corner all the time. They should not be waiting for somebody to carry them up the stairs.
How are you able to get this message across in Africa, though? Because I know that, most African countries are lagging behind when it comes to having that inclusive consideration for the disabled individual. How are you getting the message across in Kenya?
So at the moment, because I'm working with Kenya Society for the Blind, so they know my views. I've also been invited to quite a number of conferences that are happening in Kenya about disability. I was in one last week, and I viewed what I would want to see a change in a better learning environment for the blind. We had a meeting on Thursday last week, and I brought up that topic with our High Commissioner, Kenyan High Commissioner here in London, and he did say they are looking into that as well. So I'm already looking at the people who matter, and I need to speak to them. So the disability, the ministry, so the centers that deal with disability in making those decisions, strategic decisions on the advocacy of a disabled person.
Fantastic. So tell me, you have an event coming up soon. What will you like us to do where this event is concerned? What do we do, and how do we do it? How do we get involved, and what is the event for?
So the event is, I've been advertising it on social media, but it is very much an online funding because obviously, because of all this COVID-19, so many blind people have approached me and said, Wambui, can I have a laptop? Can I have a white cane? Can I have an iPad? And that's why some people have been providing me with those equipment. And I need to say at this moment, thank you very much to all those that have contributed. So the online is going to be on Zoom. I've got quite a big interest of people who will be joining us. We need to raise money. All I need is £20 for whoever joins or contributing. A white cane costs £20. If I can get £20 for a white cane, that can be used by a blind person somewhere. Instead of somebody having to rely on, them having to rely on somebody to crossing the road, they've got the cane to guide them, but at least the person can just talk to them. They don't need to touch them. But I think it's important that the funding we raise also helps for families that I've got. I've got a family with a 6-year-old blind daughter. but also the mom and father and dad are also blind.
Ooh,
So
that's
there's a whole family that is blind. Yeah. So we've been able to raise money already for keyboard and drums, and now we are looking for a teacher. So FNAC Foundation will be helping acquire a teacher for this 6-year-old who will be learning a keyboard. And then the other family is just really just to keep them going during this COVID-19, and just to provide them, to see how we can provide them enough funds so that they can start their own small business. And they just need that support to be able to get some, to do a small business for themselves, that they can be more independent, and instead of relying on handouts.
Wow. Wambui,
So
that's a whole lot. So what date is it happening?
so it is happening on the 8th of August, which is this Saturday, at 4:30 to 6:30. And also because
So
obviously
if we're not able to join you on Saturday, is there somewhere we can contribute to?
Please go to fanakafoundationuk.org and you can donate there, so that I've got PayPal there, I've got my account there, and also you can just inbox me. I'm also selling cushion covers. I don't know whether you've seen my lovely cushion covers. I'm doing some nice cushion covers.
I'm
Yes.
proud of you for that, because you're selling cushion covers and I don't have any. But
that's all right. You can always donate.
But
and actually, I've made people go and buy cushion covers, just so you know. So I've made people go and buy cushions.
Is it all part of the fundraising?
Yes.
Okay.
So I learned how to sew during lockdown.
Oh wow!
And I've decided, so I've decided I'll learn how to sew, and I can at least make some cushion covers.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Wambui, I wish we could keep speaking, but that is fantastic. You say that it's happening on the 8th of August between 4 and 7.
Yes.
On Zoom. But if that fails, if you're not able to make that, go to fanakafoundation.org, and there you can, make your contributions, you can support, and you can learn more about what is happening. I wish we could speaking, but then we're keeping Sade waiting. So I'm going to say thank you.
Can I just say one more thing? Can I just say one comment? I need to say this. When children grow up in an inclusive school, they come to regard disability as just one more aspect of the diversity reflected in their community. You start the children young, then they will see that as a norm. So we need to start from the ground level. And that is why I'm fighting for a better educational system in Kenya and here in UK for learning environment for the for the disabled.
I really admire that, and I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much for all that you do. I will be seeing you on the 8th, and I will also be making my own contribution. So if you're watching out there, I am sure that no amount is too small, right, Wambui?
Yes.
No amount is too small. Go online, and whatever you can give, it's going to a great cause.
Yes, please.
Definitely used, to support and to help somebody. Well, you have
Thank you.
I wish you all the best with it. Thank you so, so much. And I hope that you can make it back another day to tell us what's happening and how far you've gone with it.
I will.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Wambui.
Thank you so much, Priscilla.
You're welcome. Well, we're just going to take a quick break. When we do come back, my next guest is going to be talking about her amazing book. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. Welcome back. Sorry about that. I hope you're all keeping well. Well, like I said, my last guest was talking about her foundation, Fanica Foundation is a foundation that is supporting the girl and the boy child, and it is helping those who are disadvantaged. And she spoke about the fact that she's also helping the blind and providing mentoring, not just here in the UK, but also in Kenya. And she has a fundraiser coming up on the 8th of August. If you can't be available for the fundraiser, please check out her website and contribute. My next guest, as I promised, has written what I call a beautiful book. This book is so lovely. It's called Be the Total Woman You Are. After I finished reading, I thought, wow, this book is, this is just lovely. So welcome with me to the show. Let me not keep her. She's been so patient with us. Sade Popoola. Sade, you're welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hello, Priscilla. I'm good, thank you.
I'm loving the hair. You look amazing. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, let me say congratulations first and foremost. The book looks great. Not only does it look nice and feel lovely, but it's, like I said at the top of the show, and as I've said to you, I really liked reading it. It was easy to read. And it was nicely put together. So let's start from the top. I was reading it. I was reading chapter 1 and 2. I was like, oh my goodness, we have dropped out of school. We're in a different country, and I was only in chapter 2. I thought, wow. First and foremost, how did you come about writing this book? And just give us a brief history of what the book is about. Summary.
Okay. First and foremost, I have writing phobia. I don't like writing.
I don't know why you say that, because somebody who has writing phobia, and you've created this, and you're saying you have writing phobia. Okay.
Yes, I don't like writing.
Somebody watching will be encouraged that you have writing phobia.
In the book, you would also read where I had this horrible argument with my literature teacher. And that was because he wanted me to read this never-ending book, and reading and writing is just not my thing. I'm more of a visual person, and the gift of the gab also. Mm-hmm. So that just didn't work. But I was at work one day,
right?
And I guess I was just going over everything. I hated the job where I was. Didn't really want to be there. Didn't like the atmosphere, and I was still doing my work. Still doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I wasn't just, twiddling my thumbs or anything. But all of a sudden, while I'm there being really angry that I have to be here and what's this happening in my life? Why am I in this place? Something it's like the Lord said, write this.
Okay.
Write about you. Write about this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like what was happening in my mind, what was happening in my life at that time. And I was like, right, what? So I just really actually ignored it because, like I said, I don't like writing. But for some reason, a few minutes later, I just picked up my pen and I was just, and this happened and that happened, and I'm looking, I'm like, okay.
And you started writing.
And there were scraps of paper, so I had to get them together, and I just when I was done, I folded it and put it in my bag. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, what's going on here? I don't write, and I don't like writing. But don't like writing, But then I got home, and I remember telling my husband, I was really excited. I was thinking about the whole thing on my way home. And you won't believe it. I wrote this thing. There's this chapter. I'm trying to write a book. I wrote this article, this stuff. Come and see it. And he's looking at me like, so? But later, as we were talking, I'm like, why do you know? I don't like writing. It's just not my thing at all. And then he finally got why I was so excited. Of course, I showed it to him, and he was like, oh, wow, okay. And I left it. And then whenever it came back to me, whenever the words or whatever I needed to say would come back, I would go back and scribble again. And eventually, I decided, okay, I think I need to get in touch with a publisher.
Well done. So that's great that you finally got over that, and you got into it. Now, usually when people write books, they're inhibited. But you were quite clear in this book. I want us to talk a little bit about, your background, because you were quite clear in this book. You told us about your identity. You were born in the UK here, but then your parents took you back to Nigeria. They weren't doing too badly, so they wanted, as every African parent does. We decide for our my previous generation decide for their children. This one's going to be a doctor. This one's going to be a lawyer. This one's going to be an accountant. This one, if you're anything else, you're just not with it. And so everybody else, they had a plan. Talk me through for you what it was like going through that, because they already had a plan of who they wanted you to be or what they wanted you to be, but you didn't quite agree.
I think in my case, it's what they did not want me to be. It's what they did not want me to be. My parents did not hammer on me being in a particular profession. Mm-hmm. However, I wanted to get into acting. I wanted to be an actress. I loved performing. I've always dreamed about it. My mother was a teacher, and I used to be really envious of the drama group in her school.
Okay.
And I of course didn't go to the school, but I always wanted to be part of it, and that's how much I loved it. And I remember telling my dad that I was going to be going to NTA at the time, Nigerian Television Authority, because there was this program that was on. It's called Adio Family, and that tells you how old I am. It's really old, and I was watching it. I was watching it, and I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And I saw myself as one of the little girls that was in the show. And I remember running to my dad, saying, I'd love to act. I want to go to NTA. I want to act. God, that was the worst thing ever. Because the look, that look. African, oh God, my dad, bless him. He had that look of, don't even finish your sentence. So, and he said, look, if you even try, if I see you go there, if you even dare, don't come back to this house.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And of course, I was young. I was afraid. I wasn't that bold at the time, so, and I just shelved it, and that was that. So I would watch and I would dream, and I would watch and I would dream. And I would watch the newscasters and I would dream. Ruth Benamazia or a lot of Julie Coker. I would watch them, and I'd be like, yeah, I can do that. That's what I want to do. That. So I said I wanted to read mass communication. And then went to the States and got to the States. I did liberal arts. But while I was in
So when they sent you to the States, it was on the understanding that you were going to do mass communications.
Yes.
A degree in mass communication.
in that sphere of things, liberal arts, mass communication, that kind of thing, which was still fine. But on getting to the States and on getting to college, I now started to really, what I didn't really like started to come out. I realized I was not an academic person.
Okay.
And being in class, having to do certain things I didn't want to do was just not cutting it for me.
But I mean, mass communication is very much close to the drama that you wanted to do, no? To the NTA that you wanted
and
to
video.
do.
Yes.
So what was it that didn't agree with you?
Are you kidding? We had to do history, we had to do archaeology, we had to do literature, and all those things involved reading, like massive stuff. And this is somebody that reading was an issue for me. It was later I realized that it was dyslexia. And I'm like, no wonder, because I'd be reading something and I just find myself going back or getting really muddled up, in the book or in the sentences. I would get really frustrated and I would just, toss the thing. And I realized that I loved magazines.
Right.
And I loved seeing stuff. I was very visual. Things had to be visual. Things had to be nice and colorful. and, you know, and exciting. And that is what
That was
attracted.
where you were at. So,
Yes.
so you know, you went to the States. You were supposed to do this mass communication course, which you did not quite like other aspects of it, but some aspects was okay, but then it wasn't enough for you. And then, you know, there was pregnancy. You went to Hollywood. There was pregnancy. Talk to me about the Hollywood journey, and then how we ended up, you know, being pregnant.
Okay. With the while I was in the States, I was living with my uncle. And then I found a broadcasting school, strictly broadcasting, radio, like hands-on, proper hands-on. And I remember telling him that, you know, this is where I want to go. We go to this school, it's a radio school, and they teach you, you're on the radio, physically, you're doing stuff. And he looked, he was like, no, you go back and read. And so by then I just quit. I quit college. Nobody was talking to me at home. Nobody wanted to know. It was like, how can you quit college? What's wrong with you? Are you crazy? But at the end of it, nobody was listening to me. My uncle was a scientist. He worked at MIT.
Okay.
And so imagine that, a scientist and a creative person who doesn't, and he was just a bookworm. So we were not gelling, okay? And by then I started to really rebel.
Right.
Because at that point, I was just getting really frustrated. And, you know, for a creative person, when they're not able to create and express their creativity and do what they need to be doing, depression sets in big time. So it set in really, really big time because nobody was listening to me. And unfortunately, I'm the baby of the family. So it's like, of course, nobody's going to listen to you. You're not supposed to be heard, you know? So I just went nuts. And I was going out with somebody at the time. And then I got pregnant. He was a lovely guy. But he was also trying to find his footing at the same time.
So how old were you at this time?
Sorry?
How old were you around about that time?
Ooh, I was in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s. And so I got pregnant. My dad heard about it. Boy, the guy did not want to speak to me again. I was here. I would call the house and he would hang up. Wow. And he would give it to my mom, your child. You know, no more his child. Your child's on the phone. So I would talk to my mom, And anyway, eventually, I decided in my heart that if they refuse my child, and they've already refused me, they've rejected me already. Okay, so well, look ahead. So I've already accepted that. But I decided that, you know, if they refuse this beauty and bring it into the world, that's it. So I had a plan, and the plan was I'm just gonna, you know, go somewhere in the States and alienate myself from every single person related to me, change my name, and they would never ever find me again.
Wow, what a great plan.
That was my plan. And I was ready because at that point I was just annoyed and frustrated, and I couldn't do what I wanted to do. Nothing was really happening. And, you know, but my mom, and you know, moms, they're the best in the world. Moms are just the best. My mom is such an amazing woman that I don't play with her.
So what happened with your mom? Where was that? Was there a turnaround with your mom?
No, my mom, of course my mom was fine with it. She wasn't happy. At first, she was concerned, hey, my granddaughter. However, I had this child, not matter, but with dad and with everybody else, like, what's everybody gonna say? But eventually they accepted the child, loved the child, like loved this child, loved on this child so much, I did not exist anymore.
So you lost your identity with your family before the child came along, and then you further lost your identity to the child when the child came along too.
You know, and of course, by then I had calmed down and everything because I'd gotten into acting. Then, you know, I got pregnant, but it was a matter of, look, I cannot have this child here. I cannot, if I have a chance, which my mother has given me, to come home, that she would take the child, would come home, start all over, do this and that. Because I had that second chance, I decided to change myself, change my life, calm down. So I went back home, and that happened. And then I got married, met my husband, got married, had children, wanted to go back into Nollywood at the time.
So
but at that time,
hold on for
sorry?
me. Hold on for
Okay.
me. So a whole lot just happened there because you went home, you got married and had more children. So let me come forward some, because that's just chapter 1 and 2 that you just described. So, I mean, I was just like, right, we're only at chapter 2. I wonder what I'm going to find out at the end. But anyway, it kept me, I was hooked because there were so many things that you talked about. And one of the things that you spoke about, which I think that all of us, most of us within this community as Africans, whether we are Kenyans, whether we are Nigerians, whether we are whichever part, when it comes to our attending church, for want of a better expression, I will use the word religion. It's very important to us. We are Presbyterian, Catholics, Pentecostals, we are it. We're in it. And you spoke about that journey in the book. And I thought it was so interesting, your experience in that journey. You spoke about the fact that you went to one church, the first church you went to, you sort of described the fact that in that church, it was more about control. And then you soon left that church, went to another church. I just want you to, just talk us through that very quickly, because we all go to different churches and experience these things, but far too often we keep silent on them. And we sort of suffer in silence. And maybe if we discussed it a little bit more, we would have a better environment. So let's talk a little bit about that first church. I love the way you describe it later, but let's talk about that.
Okay, with the church issue, when we came back to the UK and my kids came with me and everything, my husband and everything, they were quite young and it was a cultural difference. And I was scared as to how I would manage these children and bring them up, the moralistic way and Christian way and everything. How would I do that? Because I knew that I wasn't going to be with them 24/7. They're going to go to school. They're going to do sleepovers. They're going to go to raves. And so at the end of the day, I just decided, you know what? I need God. He's the only one who's going to be able to do this. So I'm just going to take these children and I'm just going to say, Lord, hey, they're yours. Take care of them. I don't know what to do. You just need to teach me, So I looked for a church, and because I felt, I needed that setting, so I found this church and I felt, oh, family. Oh yeah, that church, we speak the same language, we're cool, but as time started to go on, I realized that they were very controlling. Things were not changing for me. Things were not changing in the church.
Controlling, what do you mean by that? Because I think it's important to understand.
I'll give an example. I'll just give one example, just one out of many. As time went on when I was there, I wanted to do more. I knew that I could do more instead of just working in a job I didn't like and coming to church Monday and Wednesday and whatever day, that was it. Church, home, church, home, church, home, work, church, home. There has to be something else. So I started a program. I felt led to start this program. It was a Christian show about testimonies where I've just interviewed people about their testimonies of salvation.
When you say program,
and I remember telling
programs.
Sorry?
When you say program, you mean as in TV program?
A YouTube show, yeah.
All right.
So I spoke to a few of the family people in the church and, hey, I'd love to interview you, how you came into salvation. I was like, everybody's gonna want to hear that. Yeah. Of course, who doesn't want to hear that? How did you come into Christ? Yeah. And it wasn't met well. I was reported. And when I was reported, I was called and I was told off. How dare you want to start a program? You don't come. This was the pastor. You don't come to me first. You don't tell me first or ask me. And I'm like, dude, it's just gonna be on YouTube. It's just a program to talk about Christ. I felt, because and he was like, no. he was in Nigeria at the time. When I come back, don't do anything till I come back. I remember telling my husband like, what's that about? What's all that about? So anyway, I went ahead and I just looked for other people that wanted to talk about God, wanted to talk about Christ and salvation. And when he came back, he had a meeting with me and everything. But all that time, there was a lot of preaching against me and against that. They would go on the pulpit and they would say, yeah, testimonies is a bad thing. Of course, who wants to hear about testimonies of salvation?
No. But this is because, you know, in a lot of church settings, usually people want to hear about the good things that happen. The testimonies is an opportunity to share. At least it signifies that God is in the place at the very least.
Mm-hmm. So everything, the thing is, with the controlling, everything I had to do had to come through them. I remember going to an event of the lady who eventually got me out of that place, not physically, but no, I remember going to an event and I was reported. Sade has gone to some event to some lady, Wow. I was told off again. And I'm like, okay, dude, what's going on here? Why?
So what kind of effect did all of that have on you? How did that impact your walk in the faith?
It really, it crushed me. It actually did crush me, especially when they were preaching against me, when they would, my friends or people in church would go and report me that I went to this place and I went to that event, and then the pastor would call me back. And the last straw that broke the camel's back was when we were called into the office one particular Sunday, which was the day I knew I was going to be leaving. And I remember going in then, he said he wanted to see us after the church, us is me and my husband. So we got into the room and the pastor looked at me and he said, you're on your way out. So I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't understand it. He looked at my husband and he asked my husband, do you notice anything different with your wife? And of course, my husband, being my husband, said, yes, she's not her bubbly self, which is true, because at that point, I had gone into my shell with all the reporting, with all the telling off, with all the calling, with all the reporting, with all the, man, there was a track and trace. They were the first people that did the track and trace. They were on my case, big time. So it's like, by the time I had gone in the office and he had said, you're on your way out.
Yeah.
And he said when my husband said what he said, like, she's not her bubbly self. We hear you've gone into your shell and no question as to why are you unhappy, what's going on, is it a marital thing, it was like, you're on your way out. But by that time, I remember when he said that, I was just like, in my mind, I was like, Lord, you do answer praise, because I'd been asking, how am I going to leave this place? Because I had children and I understood.
So eventually you left that church.
Eventually we left.
But the good thing is that you didn't leave and give up on the faith. You still went on, in spite of that experience. You still went on to go and look for somewhere else to attend. Is that?
I did, because at that point I had to, even though my relationship was more with the church, the pastor, the church, the people, I didn't really have that relationship with the Holy Spirit, because a lot of the things that we did in that church, we did a lot of binding, man. We were, I'm sure we were doing binding and casting, and everything was about demons and
everything was about
zombies.
Okay.
So there was no relationship thing going on. Right. But by that time, I had to go back to the Lord. What's going on here? What do I do? I can't go back. But I also realized it was killing me. I nearly had a breakdown one day, 2:00 in the morning. I literally just lost it. And thank God my husband was home. He's the one that controlled me. But at that point, I had said, that's it.
Wow.
And I stopped going.
You stopped going there.
I stopped going there. But I had to ask the Lord where to go, what to do.
Okay. So the next,
because I didn't want to. It wasn't God I was angry at.
No, it was the way you were treated. So when you went to the next place that you went to, what did you find there? Because you're telling us that you were in search of the relationship. And it wasn't much about the relationship at your first stop. But then at your second stop, were you able to find that relationship there?
It was a huge, it was a huge church. And me coming from a very small church, it was like I was at the circus. But it was a huge, huge church, and it was all right, you know. But I remember that day, that Sunday, we got out of the car, went into the church, had a great time at the church, you know, very welcoming place and everything. And when we finished, it's like I heard the Lord say, "Don't get too used to this." I'm like, "What do you mean, don't get too used to this place?" You know, we kind of like this place. It was new. So eventually I still kept going because I didn't understand it. I was just told, "Don't get," you know, that's what the Lord told me. But somewhere down the line, I had this dream, and the dream was about the foundation of the place. So even though it looked great and they did all the right things, and you know, to a point, it was great fun, music, you know, people interacted, and it was just lovely, you know, great people. But there was an issue with the foundation.
Wow.
And that was when I understood why God said, "Don't get too used to this place." I'm like, okay. And then again, the next question, okay, so what do we do? So at that point, I just stayed home. I just stayed home. Like, yo, we're staying home. We're not going nowhere. I didn't get nothing from the Lord. But while I was in that place, that first place, and when I came out, I was being counseled by a pastor on the phone for a year. This pastor, this lady pastor, counseled me for a year on the phone. I never ever went to her church.
So before we go deeper into the lady pastor that was giving you counseling, how did this affect the children? Because they are also part of this journey of yours. They were with you in the different churches, and they're young. How did this affect them? How did they find
It's amazing, which is, okay, I need to go back to that first one. Because before I left, I didn't just get up and leave. I did have to speak to the Lord. And the reason why I was particular about the Lord making sure that when we do leave, we are certain we're doing the right thing. And he lets us know that we are doing the right, that he's the one who has given us that way out. Because I said to him, I said, "Listen, I've got children, and getting up and leaving, you're not giving a good example. You know, you're in a way, it's almost like rebellion. All of a sudden, we're not going there anymore. You know, mom is not going there anymore. You know, but I had to be prayerful about it. And when the Sunday we were going to leave, the Lord told me. And when we got to church, the pastor preached on grace. And I remember that day, even my daughter, I can't remember how old she was at the time. She's 20 now, quite a number of years ago. But I remember her, she was quite young, which really shocked me. She was like, "Mom, they preached on grace. They've never done that before," which means all the time she's been there, never done that before. And I knew that was it. That was that day. And I said, "Lord, thank you." And even the pastor said, "I never do this, but the Lord is on me to preach about grace." And I knew that grace, that whole message was for me. And that was when we left. And when we left, it was okay, because by then, everybody, by the time we got home, I explained to the children and everything. And then my daughter, who was very vigilant about even all the messages that she had been hearing at the church over years, she was like, "Grace, they never preached on grace." But then I said to her, "We're not going back." And I said to them, "We're not going back there anymore." And boy, were they happy.
Really?
They were excited.
Wow.
So it didn't affect them at all.
Okay, so we have so much to get through, and I'm looking
there is, I know.
but there is on in chapter 4, you know, you talk about forgiveness being very powerful.
Yes.
And I just want you to just talk us through, how did you get past? Obviously, we've just done a summary, but you speak about the fact that there was, literally a gang up against the church. And I can't imagine what that would have felt like, not just for you, but your family. So you talk about forgiveness being powerful. How were you able to achieve that? And just talk us through that.
I'm not gonna lie, it did hurt. And at the time where I was in my Christian walk, was very delicate.
Yes.
And I'm also a very emotional person. So it was really hard because a lot of the people that were ganging up on me, that were telling stories and hokies about me, were people who would come to my house and eat with me, like Judas, man. They were running and dining. But at the end, they were doing other things. They were reporting me, picking up the phone and calling and say, yeah, she's doing this and she's doing that. So that really hurt. But I also understood that I needed to forgive. However, at the time, forgiveness to me was, okay, God said we should forgive, and I have to forgive, whether you like it or not. I didn't really have an understanding of how to go about, accessing forgiveness and really forgiving and letting go, where the pain is not so hard on my heart.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be hypocritical. So it was something that took time. It was a process. But what I kept doing was I would always go back to the Lord, and in all that, it made me really appreciate God's love, because I knew that He knew this was hard, but I also knew that it was His will. And then as time went on, I started to understand that, yes, it might not be a matter of, okay, I've forgiven and I'm not hurt anymore. Child, you lying. But it was a matter of knowing that it's His will. And knowing that it's His will to do that, the next thing I did was, you need to take the pain off.
Right.
You need to help me deal with this, which is how I dealt with it. And I was able to, over time, it's not instant. And you're not condemned just because you say you're not, because God sees their heart and He sees the willingness. But just like the guy who said, look, I do believe you can heal my child, but forgive my unbelief, but just do the business. Just, help me out here.
Okay. So, I mean, you talk about the fact that we've mentioned those two churches, and the fact that you said there were two different spiritual focuses for those churches. I think that's interesting in the sense that most of us just, you think church, so you assume that the spiritual focus will be uniform. But then you say that you identify that there were two different spiritual focuses. What were those differences?
Well, that first one was very much demon-led, Satan-led, and making sure you make.
When you say making sure you mean there was a focus. There was when you say demon-led, what you mean is that there was a focus on, like you said earlier,
casting and binding.
That's it.
Casting and binding and looking for demons here and there and being so scared out of your wits. It's like, it got to a point I used to wonder, okay, God, you so God, man, you God. You like, but why? And if I'm in you, why am I so worried? Why am I so scared? Where is the power? Why are we always constantly binding and loosing? Why are we so afraid? Every other person we saw had a demon except we did.
Wow. So how did that differ to the other church?
You mean the one where I said I was shown the foundation of the place, or?
Yes, the second one.
I felt in that particular church, like I said, it was a lot of fun, a lot of razzmatazz, and the people were friendly. I felt that what was preached there was a lot lighter than where I had come from.
So there was a less focus on the whole binding and losing thing.
Yes, there was actually none of that. Okay. I would say, I have to be honest, none of that. So to me, it was like, whoo, fresh air.
But then you made mention of the fact earlier, you said that in the other church, there was you felt some kind of, it was a bit heavy. No, that wasn't what you said. You said, and things were not changing. Did you see changes in the second church?
Yes, I did, because at that time, my mind was free.
Okay.
I was around happy people. There was a lot of singing and dancing, and because I had come out of prison, as like any kind of air would do, mate. So that was what was happening at that point.
Oh, you're so funny.
I had to, I had to also listen to the voice that said, don't get too used to this place. And then when I saw the foundation and then stuff happened after that, I was like, okay, Lord, it's none of my business. It's not my business to go about telling nobody anything. So I'm just going to obey. And if he has his plan, he has whatever for me. So
where was your turning point? What was your turning point? Because a turning point came for you. You mentioned earlier about the pastor that, you know, mentored you, and I told you to pause. Let's how did she become a turning point for you?
Boy, she was so amazing, because I met her while I was trying to get this show off the ground, and I wanted to interview her because she had such an encounter with God, you know, and the devil. So weird, you know. But I was so intrigued, and I interviewed her and everything. I wanted to interview her. For some reason, it just didn't happen. But I got talking to her, and while that was happening, I was speaking to her on the phone. She would speak to me. We were speaking for like a year, and I would call her, and she would minister to me. She would tell me about purpose. She would tell me about vision, tell me about, you know, my relationship. And she kept saying, listen, it's not about a building. It's about your relationship with God. Boy, I could not believe what she was saying, because I had never heard anything like that before, you know. And she never once in that year that she was counseling me on the phone, she never ever said, come to my church, because it wasn't about that. It wasn't about that, you know. And so that particular day, I left the second church, and we had been at home. The Lord just said, get up and go to Olabisi's church. That was her name.
So because I know you say in on page 31, you say, I came from religion to relationship. And you've talked a lot about the fact that it's, you know, it's not about the building. It's not about that. It's about relationship. And you didn't have the relationship in the other churches that you went to. So break that down to us, because there are a lot of people that will see this, and they may have been to a church similar to the one you described, and had familiar or similar experiences, but they may not know, what is that relationship? What was that?
God. The thing is, as time went on, that pastor died, unfortunately, and then I had to find my way. And in finding my way, I got to understand, come across the Kingdom of God, the Kingdom Message by Dr. Miles. So I dove right into that, because that was even greater liberty, as in it made me really understand God and his intent and his purposes. And Dr. Miles would go into vision, he would go into purpose and go into the intent of God from the beginning to the end, you know, and he would go into principles. And those principles, you know, we were supposed to apply it. And he expounded on the fact that Jesus did not come to preach religion. He didn't come to preach, come to Christ, come to Christ, come to Christ. Yes, even though we're supposed to, but he focused on the kingdom of God. And every single time he had a chance, it was the kingdom of God. Brother Paul even focused on the kingdom of God. It's all about the kingdom of God. But with how Dr. Miles broke it down, made it so wonderful that I started to realize that, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be having a relationship. I'm supposed to understand what God has said when he said, seek first the kingdom of God, his righteous laws, and then everything will be added on to you. That we've looked at it, a lot of us in religion at the time didn't know what that meant. But by the time I got into the kingdom message and applying the principles and understanding God's intent, that is what is missing. Because if you understand his intent and you understand why you're here, and you understand him, his heart and his nature, that we are made as he said, we are made in his image and his likeness. Once we start to understand what that is, you now have a greater relationship.
In the book, you said, because I'm trying so hard, time is just, because we've gone over 1 hour, but I'm just gonna, I want us to be able to sort of end this shortly. In the book, you say that the kingdom is a community.
It's a community, yes. Kingdom of God is a place.
So
but the citizens have this community that they belong to. And we're supposed to be a community who are thinking alike, just like here in the UK. Hey, if you're a citizen, you've got your red passport and everything, you need to follow the law. You know what I'm saying? You need to follow the principles. You might not like the mask they say you put on the face, but if they've said when you go into a bus, you put it on, it's the law of the land. You don't like it, get out. But it's the law of the land. So it's the same thing with the kingdom of God. It's a place. And it has its laws, it has its righteous laws, and it has its principles. And once you apply those principles into your life, there is no way your relationship with God doesn't even get stronger. But you need to first.
Sorry? So that was where the turning point came for you.
That was where the turning point
came.
Yes.
And then, so then how do we become this total woman that we are, or that we've been created to be? How do we become that?
Yes. With that, I need to take you back real quick. I'll be real fast about it.
Thank you.
When God gave me the unction to write the book, and he gave me the title Total Woman, I was a mess. When I say a mess, I was a mess, absolute mess. So, but I remember taking that name, like Total Woman. I don't even know my left from my right. But I took it in obedience. It wasn't until last year and a half too that I started to realize that because I've been through everything I've been through and where I am now, it's been complete in him and me following my purpose through the vision that he has given me that makes me total. I'm not total because I'm perfect. I'm total because I've come to that realization, that completeness in him.
Wow.
Through understanding him and his principles and applying them and walking with him and not walking in condemnation. Condemnation is religion, and condemnation is what's happening in the churches. And that's why a lot of women are afraid to leave. That's why they're afraid to speak up. They don't want to be condemned by this man, not God.
Man.
Okay. And so the kingdom message, me getting to that place, because in the book, you see that I've gone from here to there. I was searching. I was that merchant in Matthew that was searching, that merchant that found that great pearl. And when they found that great pearl, sold everything just for that. And that is where I mean,
thank you so much for breaking that down, because I think all too often we think that, to be that complete, that total woman, we need to have a great job, we need to have a husband, we need to have the children, we need to have fantastic homes. But for you, what you're saying is that to be that total woman is that you have to have that from the heart first. You have to, you have to be ready from within, and it's not necessarily the focus on the material things, but it's more the focus on the happy, content you,
and being complete in God, in Christ, being under that purpose He has called you to be in, and understanding His intent, understanding His nature. You are made in His nature and His likeness. You need to understand that. Because that does not mean you don't have flaws, and you will not have flaws, and you will not have issues. You will not, annoy somebody or step on somebody else's toes. But even though that has happened, when that happens, apply the principles. Go back to your king, just like you would with the law. You mess up, you deal with it.
Wow.
But
I feel like we have so much more, but time doesn't allow us. But throughout the book, you talk about the fact that you're being taught patience. You were being taught patience throughout the book. Patience, right? Through there are some great quotes that I picked up. In there, you said you can't have a healthy soul and look diseased. That's on page 57. I thought, wow, that's because you also spoke about the fact that today's Christians, a lot of people are looking on the outside, and it's the way they're dressed, and they believe if they don't wear makeup, if they don't have a wig on their heads, and if they're not wearing trousers, they're going straight to heaven. But that's not the case. And it was, I think, around there that you said you can't have a healthy soul and look diseased. I thought that was such a great line. And you also said, which I thought, wow, when not walking in your purpose, you age faster. That was draining. You talked about that on page 61. And I just thought, my goodness, there are so many great nuggets throughout this book. But your journey is one that I was so encouraged by. And I thought, wow, all too often we're hiding. All too often there are so many of us that have gone through that can identify with, different aspects of of you that you talk about in the book. And I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much for, number one, writing the book, but number two, for giving your time to be here today to talk about it, to talk about the content. More than anything, though, the final word I'm going to ask you is, what do you want somebody reading this book to go away with?
I want them to go back to their maker.
Right.
Just like you buy a Nokia phone, you don't take it to Apple if the button stopped working. You got a maker. It's got a maker. Go back to Nokia. Okay. Don't go to Apple and say, yo, this is my Nokia phone. It's just not working. You do phones, don't you? You know what I mean? You do phones. You're the top.
Yeah.
You're the top dogs. It doesn't work like that. So I would say go back to your maker. Go back to God. If you've left, that's all right. He's waiting on you. He's waiting. Go back. Look up and find out why Jesus came. What he's been talking about forever, which is the kingdom message, because that's where your liberty is. Being that citizen of the place called heaven, okay? And find out what your purpose is to serve here on earth. We're supposed to serve. A lot of people are rushing to heaven. Hey, you haven't finished your work here. Let it be on earth, he said. So we have a purpose to fulfill. Find out what it is. Serve it to humanity.
So where do we find this? Where can we get this? So if
on Amazon.
And they say, right, I want to read the book, where do we get it?
You can get it on Amazon, and you can also go to my website, and there's a link to the Amazon.
What is your website, please?
SadePopoola.com. No H in my name. SadePopoola.com.
Well,
everything is there.
Ms. Sade Popoola, I want to say thank you so much for giving your time to be here today. Really appreciate that. Thank you many much. And I wish you the very best with the book. I hope that, those who read it will certainly find some form of encouragement, peace, solace, whatever it may be, because I believe it'll be different things for different people. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, you've been watching. Today, it's about supporting the dream of, the book that has been written, the charity that is helping, people around the world. It's about that. So, please, on the 8th of August, it's going to be on Zoom. It's fanakafoundation.org. If you can't be part of the fundraiser that's going to be happening on the 8th of August, please check out the website and you can contribute there too. It doesn't matter what you give. Whatever you can give is welcomed and it will be appreciated and it will go to a great cause. Likewise, Sade has talked about her journey. It's really about her journey. She looks amazing. We didn't get to talk about the part where she goes back. She's gone back now into her dream. She's in her 50s, believe it or not. She looks amazing, looks fabulous there. But she's in her 50s and she's gone back to her dream of acting. She's gone back to, train and to go back into acting and, and get back on stage. And it's just amazing to have gone through that journey and be able to rediscover herself and go back to what her heart has always wanted to do. And it's about learning how she did that. I don't know what you're going through out there. I don't know what you're struggling with, but I believe this will help. You can pick up a copy from Amazon. You can pick up a copy from her website. It's Sade Popoola, and that's spelled SadePopoola. So let me not get that wrong. So help her out. Buy a book and read it. It will certainly help you. If you don't need it, you may know somebody that may actually find it useful. I believe there are people out there that have experienced this journey one way or another. You don't have to go through it alone. There's help. On that note, I'm going to sign out and say thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that you will be joining me again next week. I'll be here 7 p.m. as usual. So I look forward to seeing you then. Until then, take care of yourself. Stay safe.